Have you ever imagined a bear approaching you in need, not aggression? A peaceful forest fishing expedition led Lucas to this terrible situation. Dark figure approaching from the riverside as he casts fishing line into the peaceful river. Large brown bear, his heart raced and he fled. Location had several bears, but they stayed their distance. This bear approached him directly. Understand the scene. His breath caught when he saw the little, limp bear pup between the mother bear's teeth. Lucas knew a mother grizzly and her youngster were the most perilous places. He fled cautiously, but the bear did something amazing. Her wide, dark eyes begged for aid as she met him. Lucas was frozen, unable to believe his eyes. Would this bear ask him to defend her cub? It seemed inconceivable. Bears rarely engage with humans and flee when hurt. Whimpering, she placed her dying cub on the woodland floor and nudged it toward him. The youngster was struggling, his sides heaving. Mother grizzly and her youngster were in the most perilous places. Bear did something amazing. Eyes begged for aid as she met him. Frozen, unable to believe his eyes. Bear asks him to defend her cub and flee when hurt. Dying cub on the woodland floor and nudged it toward him. When he hesitated, she waited, attempting to appear unthreatening. Lucas's dread faded into awe and urgency. He had no expertise with bear cubs or how to aid them, but he couldn't leave this couple after they trusted him. Lucas remembered a simple first aid kit and blankets in an unused shed behind his cabin. The mama bear in a calm, compassionate voice to aid. Interestingly, the bear understood. She retreated, letting Lucas gently grab the cub. Lucas felt protective since the little creature was so fragile. The mama bear silently watched over her cub as he ran to his lodge. Lucas tried to steady the cub on a comfortable blanket inside. Despite no evident injuries, the cub was suffering. Lucas washed his body with warm water to cause a reaction, but nothing happened to help him figure out what was wrong. Lucas frantically searched for a solution after realizing he was powerless. Then he remembered Dr. Amelia Hayes, a wildlife veterinarian he met at a local conservation forum years earlier. She may be their only hope. Lucas saw her number on a tattered conservation brochure on his fridge. He dialed with fingers crossed, hoping she answered. After she did, he felt his narrative was too absurd to believe, but he tried anyway. "Dr. Hayes, it's Lucas Miller," he said, hoping she remembered. "I have a bear cub. Mother brought it to me in horrible shape. Probably needs immediate attention. Can you come?" Lucas's voice was steady, yet the situation was serious. Believe him and don't think he was crazy. Lucas believed the veterinarian would hang up after a brief silence. But then Dr. Hayes' calm, confident voice filled the room. "Have in her position. Room. Keep the youngster warm. Getting there will take roughly an hour." Lucas looked outside after the call. Mama bear remained, staring at the cabine. He felt an underlying tie between them, a shared understanding and worry for the cub's fate. Back at the bear's side, he watched his little chest rise and fall stronger. Lucas smiled, hopeful. They might save this youngster with Dr. Hayes. For now, he could just wait and console the little life fate had suddenly given him. The crunch of gravel under tires signaled Dr. Amelia Hayes' arrival after an endless hour. Lucas rushed to meet her, hopeful but scared. With her equipment, Dr. Hayes rapidly assessed the scene. Now wrapped in a warm blanket, the cub appeared stronger, but its condition was still unstable. Dr. Hayes gently but thoroughly examined the bear's heartbeat, gums, and concealed injuries. Ingesting anything harmful to its environment poisoned it. Its condition is severe, and without immediate and intensive treatment, it may not survive the night. Lucas felt the grave diagnosis as it echoed in the lonely cabin. The word poisoned invaded, bringing injustice and fury. How could a young life be dying from human negligence? Lucas was despairing, said Dr. Hayes said, "There's still hope. I carried 4 fluids and antitoxins. We must start treatment immediately and hope it is not too late." Lucas waited for good news, holding his breath. Dr. Hayes straightened up, her face somber after a few minutes of tension. "Lucas," she said, evoking dread in the room. "This cub has more than physical trauma. Environment poisoned it. Without immediate and intensive treatment, it may not survive the night." This grave diagnosis it echoed in the lonely cabin. Word poisoned invaded, bringing injustice and fury. Young life be dying from human negligence? Hayes said, "There's still hope. Fluids and antitoxins. Start treatment immediately and hope it's not too late." Her powerful, purposeful voice lifted Lucas from disbelief and inspired him. They set up a makeshift 4-drip to hydrate and nourish the weak cub while administering the antitoxin. The mama bear, looking from the window, appeared to understand the urgency, her attention never leaving her delicate cub. Lucas begged any deity for life as the drug slowly seeped into the cub. He felt strangely responsible for the little bear, even though he had nothing to do with the tragic circumstances that nearly killed it. He was resolved not to disappoint them because his mother had brought it to him. As Lucas and Dr. Hayes grew hopeful, his phone rang, interrupting the cabin's silence. Lucas saw her face change from fascination to concern as the caller spoke. She hung up and stared at Lucas intensely. "That was the clinic," she remarked heavily. "A critically ill cheetah was admitted. They require my rapid return." Lucas sensed turmoil in her eyes. She wanted to stay with the cub, but another animal needed her. He knew her duty and her painful choices. She finally said, "I have to go. The cub is recovering after I stabilized it. Lucas, you're a great caregiver. I think you can handle this." Lucas panicked. Despite their improvement, caring for the cub alone was scary. But he knew Dr. Hayes had to help the cheetah. "Go," Lucas said, determined. "I'll watch the cub. Your presence is needed." Dr. Hayes immediately packed her things and gave Lucas specific cub care instructions. She went to the clinic with a quiet commitment to stay in touch if the cub's condition changed. Lucas took up caregiving duties for several days. He meticulously monitored the cub's feed, watered it, and comforted it per Dr. Hayes' recommendations. Each day, the cub got stronger, moved faster, and cried louder. Lucas had a purpose for the first time in years. Lucas received updates from Dr. Hayes on the cheetah. She admitted it was a tough battle, but it was increasingly theirs. She returned to Lucas's cabin when she could, encouraged by the cheetah and cub's improvement. After the cub started moving more, Dr. Hayes raised a critical question. "We need to start preparing for its return to the wild," she said. "It should return to its natural home now that it is strong enough to live." Lucas knew she was right. The cub was saved, yet it belonged in the wild. He was still afraid of saying goodbye. He became devoted to the young bear, his fight for life inspiring him. They delayed a few days to help the cub acquire strength. Lucas worked with local wildlife experts to establish a secure woodland environment for the cub's release. Ever-vigilant Mama Bear appeared to feel what was coming. The release day dawned bright and clear. Her frequent trips to the cottage seemed to encourage them to hurry. Release day dawned bright and clear. The energetic cub seemed ready to conquer the world. Lucas, Dr. Hayes, and wildlife experts gathered with the cub in a shipping container. Mama Bear looked from afar, reassuring. The release was quiet. The cub left the carton at its own pace once they unlocked it. It hesitated, then ran into the jungle after looking back. After her cub, Mama Bear disappeared into the trees. Lucas watched where they disappeared, feeling pride, sadness, and hope. Now that the youngster had a second chance, nature should take control. Lucas' stomach wrenched in uneasiness. Poachers. As Lucas and Dr. Hayes returned to the cabin, an engine interrupted their calm. He had heard reports about them nearby, but confronting them felt terrible. Lucas signaled Dr. Hayes to retreat as he neared the sounds. He noticed trappers and riflemen among the trees. Lucas was furious. He couldn't let these men jeopardize the bears he'd saved so hard. Lucas faced the poachers outside. "This area is secure. I called the rangers. Leave now or get arrested," Men scoffed at Lucas for defending the animals they wanted to trap. Dr. Hayes struggled to call the ranger who pulled them from the bushes. She wanted to warn him and keep the bears away. Lucas made louder arguments with the poachers. Lucas stood firm against the poachers' firearms. He spent days raising the cub and winning the mother bear's trust. He wouldn't let evil folks threaten them. A loud roar blasted through the jungle. The ruckus drew the mama bear to the clearing's edge, where she watched the poachers. Time stopped. Then, mayhem broke out as the guys fled, the sight of the gigantic bear breaking their bravery. Poachers left just the sound of their departure. The tension was lifted when Lucas and Dr. Hayes laughed. The mama bear, their surprise buddy, looked one final time before going into the forest, a silent guardian. Lucas reflected on the prior days along the riverside as the day's enthusiasm faded. Rescue, rehabilitation, and confrontation with poachers gave the cub purpose and a broader grasp of human-nature relations. Lucas dedicated more time and resources to animal conservation to make a difference. He would safeguard the refuge for future generations by protecting the forest and its people. The story closes with a promise: a vow to help, protect, and coexist with nature. If its mother begged, would you help an ill bear cub? Do you have the guts to face poachers in a forest? Lucas's story shows that the unexpected can deepen our connection to the earth.